They already released the first episode of the new Power Rangers Prime comic book series, which is the reboot of the comics in the franchise, and if you still don't know anything about it, you can watch our video on the channel in which we analyze that first episode. If you haven't seen anything about the first episode yet, be warned that from now on there will be spoilers in this video, as we are going to analyze the changes that took place and what this means for the franchise. Power Rangers Prime started with a very different story, and even though they have used some familiar characters, the reality is that they changed quite a few things to the characters. Obviously, this is because the story is so different that it is very complicated to keep the old characters with the same personality, since the life story of each one of them has also changed. For example, in the case of Lauren, even though she only appeared in 5 episodes in the TV series and we didn't have so much information about her story, here we were given a slightly different story. In the comic we are told that Lauren's family has used the Ranger power for many generations, something similar to the Shiba clan, but this time her family was hunted by the Elter soldiers. We're not quite sure, but it's possible that the boy we see in this story alongside Lauren and her father could be Jaden. Another story that has some similar details to the story in the TV series is that of Orion, since in this comic book story he also comes from the same planet as in the series. Because we only have the first episode, we have not yet been able to know many details about each character, but little by little we can realize that the characters have some similar things to the characters of the previous universe. The new characters are excellent, since now humans are not the only protagonists, but there are many people from other planets, and this is going to involve us in many different things. Let's briefly summarize the story to be able to analyze it, and it all started in 1954, 70 years ago, which means that the story is set in 2024. Although this may seem obvious, the reality is that not all stories are set in the same year of our real life, so this could be a positive thing in the analysis that we will do later in this video. Although in that universe it is the year 2024, the technology of the world is very advanced, and this is thanks to the Eltarians. In 1954 some monsters invaded the Earth, and this invasion was so destructive that the Power Rangers could not defeat the monsters. It is for this reason that the planet Elter sent their warriors, and they managed to save the Earth. Then they decided to stay on Earth and colonized it. At the same time, many people have arrived from other planets and have become refugees, but this seems to be a division. The Eltarians feel superior and treat the refugees with contempt, so this is very similar to what people live in our real world. Regarding the Power Rangers, after the invasion and the Eltarians saved the Earth, the same Eltarians also started hunting the Rangers because they didn't like them very much. It has not yet been explained to us why the Eltarians hate the Rangers, but apparently the only Ranger left is Lauren Shiba. At the end of the episode we could see that a space garbage can came out of the moon and landed on Earth. The person who came out of this dumpster looks a lot like Rita Repulsa, although some of you have commented to me that it could also be Rita's daughter. For those of you who never read the latest Power Rangers comics, I should tell you that Rita has a daughter who looks a lot like her and is just as evil. In my opinion, I believe that the person we see in this new comic is Rita, since she says that she is now free after a long time, and this has a lot of similarity with Rita's original story. As I said at the beginning of this video, the character's new story has some similarities to the story of the TV series, so it's not so crazy to think that maybe this new Rita Repulsa was locked in that space dumpster as well. What does Power Rangers Prime mean for the reboot of the franchise? One of the things that Marvel and DC has done is that they've created the comics first and then started creating the TV universe. So they have used some of the stories from the comics and blended them together so that they could create new stories. When they had announced the reboot of Power Rangers, one of the central ideas was to create a connected universe in which the story of the series and the movies would be totally connected, although they never talked about the comics. If Power Rangers did the same as Marvel, then that would mean that the stories we're seeing in Power Rangers Prime they could use to create the new TV universe. They might not use the exact same story, but they could use the core idea, and this way we could see some of the things we've already mentioned about Prime's story. Another thing they could do is connect the whole comic book universe with the TV series and the movies. This way they would be creating something more perfected than any other superhero franchise. We know this is a bit tricky since, if the franchise wants to reach a large audience, then it's not very beneficial for them to connect everything to the comics due to the fact that many people don't read them. Imagine if people who are not that much of a Power Rangers fan start watching the TV series and little by little they connect with the story, but then in the next season everything has changed because the story continued in the comics. If that person who is not that much of a Power Rangers fan was not reading the comics, then when they try to watch the next season they are going to be lost in the story and not want to watch Power Rangers anymore. This is something similar to what sometimes happens with Marvel, as they have published so many series that sometimes it is hard to keep up with them in the story, and this is something that Power Rangers can't allow. Despite this, I think the comics can work very well as a guide to give more information and be able to delve into some things that they can't do on TV due to lack of time. Let's talk about the core idea of Power Rangers Prime, the positives this has for the reboot of the franchise. The reality is, if Power Rangers creates something similar in the live-action reboot, then we will have a spectacular universe in which we will see fantasy, drama, action, suspense, and many more things that make for a very good story. Because Power Rangers was always a children's series, they could never create a very deep story or a universe with more drama for adults who are superhero fans to enjoy more. Let's remember that the basic story of Power Rangers has always been to have a team of Rangers protecting the Earth and to have villains who are almost always from another planet and who want to conquer the Earth. To this they added a lot of fights, monsters, weapons, transformations and battles with the Megazords. All of this is interesting as it is what we love about Power Rangers, but for adults and the general public, there is a need for stories with more drama, more intriguing universes and villains with more developed purposes. We had previously talked about how positive it is that Power Rangers Prime is set in 2024, and, if they manage to make the TV series set in this same era, then we will not have those problems of the differences in times, technology, clothing, and many other things that sometimes are not so important to the story. For example, when they create series set in the past, then the producers must be very careful that the technology is the one of that time, the clothes are correct, the cars and many other things that are not important. Write in the comments your opinion about creating Prime in live action, like this video and subscribe for more information about Power Rangers.